Okay, today we're going to be continuing with the E36 touring build, and in this video we're going to be dropping the rear subframe as a whole with the differential and all the axles together. And once that's all apart, we'll inspect underneath and make sure there's no cracks or anything significant like that, and then we'll start to break down the rear subframe into its smaller components. So let's get started. Okay, before we start wrenching, I want to go over a few things. To remove the entire subframe on an E36 actually isn't as hard as you think. Remember in the previous video, we removed the transmission and the drive shaft, so this will be the first thing you have to do. Once that is done, you'll have to disconnect all the brake lines and then make sure you disconnect the two emergency e-brake lines right here. To do that, they come out to the front, and we'll have to remove the disc brake to disconnect the e-brake line from the drum brake there. After that, the only thing we have to do is remove the two shocks, and then there's 4 bolts holding in the main subframe. And then last is the rear control arms here, which have 3 bolts. After you remove all those, the whole subframe should completely drop out. I am a little bit worried about the touring because I do see some rust and a lot of these bolts look pretty bad. So I soaked them in PB Blaster for the last couple days, but I'm thinking I may need to add some heat too. So I won't know until I start, so let's get going. So there it is, we got the subframe out. It was actually a lot easier than I thought. All those bolts looked super rusty, like I was gonna strip every single one of them, but it never happened. Soaking, I think, a PB Blaster really helped out, or it's been out before, which is a big possibility considering this car was from Germany and they require a lot of the bushings and stuff to be replaced. But as we look up here, I'm also quite impressed because there's really not much rust or anything on the frame of the car. I have a few little surface things like that, which I'll take a steel brush and then I'm gonna coat everything under here with the Worth undercoating. So it'll prevent any more rust from spreading. But if you just look at it generally, there really isn't much rust or anything like that. Nothing's eating through, nothing that I'd really be concerned with. So I'm really, really happy about that. The next thing to look at always is where the subframe mounts. So right here, over here, and then these 2 areas here, as well as the pockets here for the control arms. So these are always the points at which things crack. So if you have a track car like the M3 or something, we make reinforcement plates to actually be welded or mechanically bonded in those areas. In the later E36 M3s, they actually came with reinforcement plates already on them, which is pretty cool. But if your car does not have that, we do sell these plates and we can get you situated. But yeah, just looking at all the points, I don't see any cracks, so we're good to go there. Other than that, I'm super happy with everything under here. So let's get over the subframe and see how it looks. so here's the entire subframe dropped out. If you're gonna do this job, this is definitely the way to do it. The subframe looks worse than it is. There's a lot of surface rust on all of this, which I'll take a wire brush or get sandblasted and then painted. So this isn't as bad. There's nothing that's eating through the metal, so I'm not too scared about any of that. A lot of this is just dirt and debris, which will come right off. Moving around, I don't see any cracks or anything like that. I haven't looked at the bushings yet, but on the car, when I wiggled the wheel, I didn't see any play in these bushings in the whole spindle area. In a previous video, I did address the concern about this, but I think I can get this all off and then repaint these as well, or I might just get new axles. Coming around to the differential, I did confirm that this is not a LSD. It is a 345 differential though, which is pretty cool. It'd be a perfect gearing setup actually for the S52. I wish it was LSD. I want to see if I can find one, but if I can't, this is still a great gear ratio for the S52. It looks worse than it is, but it's just paint coming off. And once I sandblast it or take a wire brush and repaint it, everything should look pretty good. All of these bushings don't look that great. You can see a little crack right here. And even if they were kind of okay, which I'm sure this subframe has been dropped before to replace these bushings, I'm just gonna do it anyways. It takes so much work to get this whole thing out. Why not just replace these bushings? So. Okay, so that's that. We got the rear subframe completely dropped today, which is really cool. It went way easier than I thought it did, which is always a huge plus when you're doing something like this, especially from a car that's from Europe and they're known to have a lot of rust. Now I'm just gonna start disassembling and cleaning everything. I'm not really gonna bother you guys with that video. It's not gonna be very interesting content. But if there's anything interesting that comes up, I will film it and hopefully get to show you some cool tips. So anyways, I got my beer. Thanks for watching and I'll see you next time.